Hello, my name is Joshua Block and I'm the teacher of religious studies at Woking College. And I've put together this video just to give you, hopefully, information to help you decide whether the course is something you might like to do. And if you do choose to do it, what exactly that will involve. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of the key information, give you a little bit of an insight into the kind of topics you'll be covering, some of the concepts you'll be dealing with, and hopefully give you a taster of some of the activities that you might find yourselves doing. So the best thing is to begin. I shall move myself over to the far corner and give you the necessary information. So as you can see, this is me in the top corner, and also there's me in this rather unfortunate staff photo, but they're both me. Anything that I say during the video, anything that you hear, you don't have to make frantic notes. I will be putting links at the end of this PowerPoint so that you can access the information from various other sources, websites, exam boards, the college itself, for further research. I'll also be giving you my email address so that if you wish, you can contact me either with or without specific questions to discuss any aspect of what you've seen, or just to gain more information. So the course itself is AQA A-Level Religious Studies. It's similar and different to what some of you may have done at GCSE. There are some components that will be familiar to you, and then some sections that are completely new. So your course will be divided into two, as you can see there, component parts, so two halves. The first part is the philosophy of religion and ethics, and this involves the more traditional aspects of arguments for the existence of God, problem of evil, sources of moral authority, life after death, things that you may have touched on at GCSE, alongside ethics, which will be the more moral side of the equation, the moral philosophy, the ethical questions, which some of you will have met before. The second part is the study of one religion, in this case Christianity, and that will be a depth study of the religion itself, going back to the source material, looking at the historical and religious history of the religion, and leading on from that into a section called Dialogues, which is looking at the place of Christianity in the modern world and its relation to other disciplines. So the contents, as I've just briefly outlined, in component one, you'll be looking at the list on the left-hand side there. As I said, this is only a very brief outline. So as I mentioned, arguments for the existence of God, evil and suffering, miracles, life after death. And then in the ethics, issues of human life and death, animal life and death, so experimentation, organ donation. We'll be looking at ethical theories and applying those ethical theories to theft, lying, capital punishment. And also slightly more unusual topics like conscience and free will and moral responsibility, which you may not have met before. In the second section, in component two, you can see from the list there, you are, as I said, looking at that depth study, and that depth study does involve a lot of reading of source texts and material, and analysis of original documents, alongside this subsequent section, section B, which looks at how religion is influenced by and has an influence on both ethics and philosophy in the modern world. So the AQA link at the end will allow you to access this in more detail and will give you all the information you need should you choose to read around the subject. The assessment structure is important. I think you need to know this as students when you're seeking to select your subjects. You need to know whether it's going to suit you. And if you're somebody who doesn't like exams, then a subject that has 2-3 hour exams as its only form of assessment may not be for you. And this is not with any intentions of trying to put you off. It's just being honest from the outset. The assessment structure is that there is no coursework. There is ongoing assessment, but the grades are based at the end of the course on 2 cumulative exams. So your course is linear. You will begin at the beginning of year 12. You will finish at the end of year 13, where you will take 2 3-hour exams, and your grades will be based on those 2 exams. So obviously, if you are somebody who struggles with exams, it may be something you want to discuss in more detail, hence why I've given you my email address, so that rather than putting you off, hopefully you will open that discussion and we can talk about it and make a decision for you. But your 2 papers are divided up into component 1 and component 2, and you will cover all of your content within those 2 papers. So on to what I consider to be the fun stuff. Maybe that's just me. It's the stuff that you can buy that allows you to really maximize your learning potential. And I don't think anything's more fun than stationery. So you can buy almost anything you want. Lots of people use laptops, iPads, notebooks, journals, you choose. But the essential items are the following ones on this list. You need at least 1 lever arch file. Those are the big thick files with a series of file dividers to divide up your separate topics. You need 1 daily work folder or notebook, something that you can take with you everywhere, every day, so you're not having to carry all of your big filed notes. A lot of A4 punched lined paper, and that way you can file that away and keep it safe and keep it secure and organized. And I've said 3, but I would say lots of highlighters. Get lots of highlighters. It makes the work look prettier, and it highlights important elements. If done correctly, is very useful. And lastly, lots of pens. You need pens. They are an essential item, and they will run out, so don't think that one will last you the entire 2 years. Various colors, lots in stock. Just make sure you've got them to hand. So, admin out of the way, what you probably want to know about is what exactly you will be looking at in terms of the course itself. And as I said, it's very wide and varied. I've given you some examples, but one of the most significant elements within RS, which is different to GCSE, or at least the depth of it is different to GCSE, is the aspect of religion and society, where we do a lot of work looking at the place of religion in society and the changing face of religion in society. So as I've said there, most people would tell you that in the UK we are a secular state. However, that's not necessarily the case. We know that outside of the UK, the rest of the world is at least 85% theist, and that's on the increase. But in the UK, whilst we think of ourselves as secular, the reality may well be very, very different. If you just think about things like the law, if you think about the welfare state, if you think about charities and community work, even if they aren't explicitly religious, is there something in the background that implies a moral, ethical standpoint, and therefore a potentially religious guidance underpinning what it is that we do? So what I wanted to have a bit of a think about is this question of whether in the current crisis, has religion actually played a part in our collective responses, both nationally and individually? And if it has, or you believe it has the impact been positive or negative? And could it be both? So what I want you to do, to keep moving myself around, I apologize, is I want you to have a look at the representation within the media of religion during the current situation, the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want you to research references. Now, research is a big and important part of A-level work, particularly in religious studies. You will be having to find a lot of information for yourself. There is core information, but what we want is breadth of knowledge, a wide array of information. And therefore, the better you get at research, the more adept you become, the easier the whole process will be, and the more interesting. So what I want you to do is find a series of accounts of the COVID-19 pandemic and religion involved in some way, shape, or form. And I want you to break them down into positive and negative. And possibly you may decide that some of them are both, some of them may fit into the middle. And so what I want you to do then is to break them down and put them into these boxes. Now, on the next slide, what I've done is given you a bit more space to do this. As I said, at this point, you might want to pause the video so that you can take a little bit of time to do this. Remember, it's not a rush. You don't have to do this within the time of the video. You can go away and come back to this. What I've also given you is down the right-hand side, a series of links to articles to help you get started. If you're not familiar with this process, you've never done much of it before, or you aren't you're a bit sort of nervous about it, start with these articles, use these and see where it leads you. Once you've done that and you've come back to me and the video, hopefully you've had a bit of an interesting time with that and you've managed to find a series of different accounts showing religion in many different lights. Now, as we said earlier, the most important thing for you is to restrain judgment. Your job is to attempt to be circumspect, to give yourselves a little bit of space to think and not just assume that anything that you see in any of these sources is immediately credible. What you've seen there is a range of different accounts of a similar topic, and probably what you'll have seen is a range of different views. Now, what your view is for you to decide. But what I want you to think about next is this idea of freedom of speech, because we have just looked at the idea of positive and negative interpretation of a particular group, particular issue, a particular idea. And often people shy away from this for the risk of a fear of offending, or because they feel it might be inappropriate. Now, within an academic setting, particularly within religious studies, we are going to sort of push those boundaries. We want to be able to tackle issues that other people might shy away from. We want to discuss things that might be controversial. And we are doing it in a safe space. The classroom is a safe academic space for exactly that purpose. People can express themselves, people can express alternative views, and we can analyze all the different views that we come across and come to a decision having done that. But what I want you to think about next is this question of whether it's okay to say negative things, because I gave you positive and negative. Well, the people who've said negative things, is that okay to do about religion? We often find that institutions and people shy away from making negative comments about people's religion because people feel it very deeply, they see it as very personal, and therefore they don't want to offend or to hurt or to upset those who do respond in a very emotional way. So what I want you to do in your second task is to have a look at this quote from Rowan Atkinson, who some of you may know from various films such as Johnny English, from the Blackadder series, amongst many others. And I want you to have a look at the hyperlink that I've connected to this, which is a speech he gave in Parliament in relation to freedom of speech and the right to say what we think without being arrested for it or censored for it. I want you to read the quote, I want you to watch the footage, and I want you to think about this question. Do you agree with his point of view? I haven't told you what I think. I don't want you to sort of judge what you think on what I think. I want you to decide for yourselves. What do you think about his point of view? Do you think it's okay to comment negatively on other people's beliefs or ideas? Is it something we should be able to do? The most important thing I want you to focus on, and this is a significant feature of A-level RS, it is your justification that matters. It is the why you think what you think. Your opinion is valuable, but it is only valuable if it is supported and evidenced. Saying, I think this, and giving no more is not particularly valuable. But saying, I think this because of these ideas, because of this evidence, that is a valuable perspective. So please watch the video, have a think about what's said, and remember, there's no right or wrong. There's never a right or wrong. There is only a well-justified or a poorly justified position. Whatever you've decided as a result of these activities, as I said, I'm not giving you a definitive answer. I'm happy to discuss via email or to look at people's work and see what arguments they've come up with and give you feedback. But it's not my place to tell you that your thoughts are right or wrong. All I can do is help you facilitate your journey and give you an opportunity to put forward the best perspective and to justify it as effectively as possible. So that being said, the last thing I want to leave you with is this quote from Aristotle. He said, it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Within religious studies at A level, your job is to entertain ideas. It doesn't mean that you agree with them. Some of them you may find very positive, some of them you may find distasteful, but it doesn't mean that you agree with them just because you are looking at them, analyzing them, thinking about them. Freedom of speech is one thing, but what we really want to strive for is freedom of thought, the ability to think openly, and then the freedom of expression, the ability to explain what we think in a way that is inoffensive, that is potentially impersonal, and is well informed. So that's really all there is from me. As I said at the bottom, if you want any further information, please feel free to email me. In fact, please email me anyway with anything that you want to know in relation to the topic. If you want more resources, if you have any further questions that you want to ask, or if you just want some guidance as to where to do a bit more research into the course itself. As I said, there will be a page of links, but please feel free to get in touch so that we can actually guide you in the right direction for you. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you well and hope you have a good summer.